What happens when a beloved country music icon steps into the ring with one of television's most confrontational hosts? The answer: sparks, chaos, and a live television moment that no one will forget. Blake Shelton walked onto Jenna Bush's set expecting a routine promotional chat about his latest music. Instead, he found himself caught in an escalating clash that ended with him storming off, leaving the audience stunned. This wasn't just another awkward celebrity interview. It was a surgical strike, a calculated ambush that peeled back the glossy veneer of daytime talk shows to reveal something far more ruthless underneath. Before we dive into this jaw-dropping exchange, hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts in the comments, because what you're about to hear is the story of two powerful personalities colliding in spectacular fashion. Yesterday's episode of Jenna Bush's Daytime show opened like any other. A bright set, an energized crowd, and the buzz of anticipation for a guest who was nothing short of country music royalty. Blake Shelton, fresh off the success of his latest album and riding the momentum of a career resurgence, was about to take his seat. The cameras panned to Jenna as she stepped onto the stage in a sharp power suit. Her polished smile drew cheers, but for those who knew her style, there was something different this time. An intensity in her gaze, a subtle shift in her energy. This was not going to be the breezy, friendly exchange viewers were used to. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jenna announced, her voice bright but edged with something sharper, "please welcome the one and only Blake Shelton." Blake appeared, cowboy hat tipped just enough to give that signature charm, his smile warm and genuine. He waved to the audience, taking his place across from Jenna with the relaxed ease of a man who has spent decades in front of cameras. The opening was harmless enough. Light jokes about his travel, a funny story about his most recent fishing trip, and compliments on his latest performances. Blake leaned into the banter, his folksy charm in full swing. Then, as he spoke about his return to an authentic country sound, Jenna shifted. The pause was subtle, the smile less warm, the posture leaning forward in a way that seasoned viewers recognized. She was about to go for the jugular. "You know, Blake," she said, her tone cooling, "it's interesting you mention authenticity, because there are people who question just how authentic this comeback narrative really is." Blake's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, his eyes narrowing slightly. "I'm not sure I follow, Jenna," he replied, his Oklahoma drawl more pronounced, a sign he was bracing himself. "Well," Jenna continued, "this isn't exactly your first comeback. We both remember a few years back when your career hit some bumps. Radio airplay dropping, album sales slipping, and rumors about your personal life affecting your professional relationships. Some people say this return to your roots is more marketing spin than heartfelt revival." The air in the studio shifted. Audience members glanced at each other, sensing the temperature rising. Blake's publicist, seated just off camera, began scribbling furiously, glancing toward the crew with a tight expression. Blake's hands tightened on the armrests. "Jenna, I think you've got some bad information there," he said evenly, though the edge in his voice was unmistakable. "Every artist has highs and lows, that's the business. But to say my music isn't authentic, or that my struggles were personal failings, that's crossing a line. Is it crossing a line?" Jenna pressed, her tone sharpening. "Or am I just asking the questions others are too polite to touch?" Her voice cut through the studio air, drawing the audience into an uncomfortable silence. Jenna didn't let the pause linger. "Because let's be honest, Blake, there are stories out there. Stories about behavior on set. About clashes with other artists. About a pattern of difficulty that goes beyond the usual ups and downs of the industry. And now, conveniently, just when your public image needs a boost, you've found your way back to the real Blake Shelton." Blake's jaw tightened. The warmth from moments ago was gone. The easygoing humor replaced by a low, simmering anger. "You know what, Jenna?" he said, leaning forward. "I came here to talk about my music. Maybe give your audience something uplifting. But it's obvious you had something else in mind from the second I walked out here. So why don't you just tell me what this is really about?" Jenna leaned back, crossing her legs with an air of confidence. Her smile now had an unmistakable bite to it. "This is about honesty. The kind your fans deserve before they spend their hard-earned money on your shows and albums." The camera operators alternated between Blake's hard stare and Jenna's fixed grin. The tension was becoming its own character in the scene. "You want honesty?" Blake asked quietly, though the power in his voice was unmistakable. "All right, you've spent 10 minutes tearing me down based on hearsay, gossip, and comments from people who weren't even there. That's not honesty, Jenna. That's poison dressed up as journalism. Anonymous sources are how real stories come out in this business, Jenna countered quickly. People are scared to speak publicly because they know the fallout. But the truth always finds a way. The audience sat frozen. Some leaned forward, phones half raised, breaking the no-recording rule. Others simply watched, wide-eyed, as the air seemed to thicken. Suddenly, Blake pushed back his chair and stood, towering over Jenna. She didn't flinch. You want the truth, Jenna? Here it is. I've been in this business for over 20 years. I've seen people like you come and go. People who think tearing others down makes good television. People who hide behind a desk and call it journalism while they destroy reputations for ratings. Sit down, Blake, Jenna said firmly, her voice sharp and commanding. We're not finished. Oh, we're finished, Blake shot back. We were finished the second you decided to ambush me instead of having a real conversation. But since you want to air dirty laundry, let's talk about your track record. The color drained from her face. This was not the direction she expected. Let's talk about the guests who've walked off this set in the past year. The complaints made to the network about your tactics. The fact that your ratings are slipping because people are sick of watching you tear down anyone who sits across from you. Behind the cameras, Jenna's producer made frantic gestures to cut to commercial, but neither combatant was paying attention. This wasn't an interview anymore. This was war. You think you're some kind of crusading journalist, Blake continued, pacing in front of her desk now. But all you are is a bully with a talk show. You invite people here under false pretenses, pretend you're going to have a friendly conversation, and then spring this garbage on them when they can't fight back properly because they're your guest. This is my show, Blake, Jenna snapped, standing now to match his presence. My house, my rules. If you can't handle tough questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews at all. Tough questions. Blake let out a laugh, not one of amusement, but of disbelief. You call this tough questioning? No, Jenna. Tough questions are about the music, about my craft, about what I actually do. This is character assassination built on rumor. The coffee table between them felt like a fault line about to crack. Cameras zoomed in on every twitch, every flicker of expression. You want to talk about what's cheap, Blake? Jenna said, her voice rising, the heat in her tone unmistakable. Cheap is pretending to be the victim when there are legitimate questions about your career. Cheap is expecting the public to swallow your comeback story without asking what caused the fall in the first place. My downfall? Blake's tone dripped with incredulity. Lady, I've sold millions of records. I've had #1 hits across 3 decades. I've built a career most artists would give anything for. If that's your idea of failure, I'd love to know what you call success. Success, Jenna fired back, is honesty. It's accountability. It's admitting where you went wrong instead of rewriting history to make yourself look better. And this anger, this defensiveness we're seeing right now, is exactly what people talk about when they describe working with you. Blake stepped closer to her desk, lowering his voice to a dangerous whisper that carried across the hushed studio. You want to talk about what people say behind closed doors? Fine. Let's talk about how agents warn their clients about you. Let's talk about how other hosts avoid you because they don't want to be associated with the way you treat guests. The audience gasped. Jenna's voice wavered for the first time. You're out of line. I'm out of line. Blake's voice exploded, filling the studio. You ambush me, you attack my character, you throw around gossip, and I'm the one out of line for defending myself? Even the crew seemed frozen. No one dared cut the feed. The tension was now too gripping, too raw to interrupt. Jenna, visibly rattled, tried to regain control. Blake, I think we need a commercial break. No. Blake cut her off, firm and final. No breaks. No chance for you to reset and figure out how to spin this. We're going to finish this, right here, right now, in front of everyone. The tension was suffocating. Everyone knew this wasn't just an awkward celebrity interview anymore. This was a full-on public showdown that would be replayed and dissected for years. Blake turned directly to the camera, bypassing Jenna entirely. You know what, folks? I want you to see exactly what's going on here. This was never about my music. It was never about having an honest conversation. This was an ambush, designed from the start to tear me down. Jenna's face twisted with outrage. Don't you dare turn your back on me, Blake Shelton. This is my show, and you'll answer my questions, or you'll get out. Blake spun to face her again, his eyes blazing. Get out? Oh, I'm getting out. But before I do, let's talk about authenticity. Let's talk about promising one kind of interview and delivering something completely different. Let's talk about hiding behind anonymous sources and gossip to destroy reputations. They're legitimate sources and you know it, Jenna shot back, though her voice had lost the steel it carried earlier. Legitimate? Blake's laugh was sharp, bitter. You want to talk legitimate? How about the fact that 3 guests have filed official complaints about your tactics this year alone? How about your own staff looking for other jobs, because they're tired of being part of this circus? How about your ratings tanking, because viewers are sick of watching you ambush people? Murmurs rippled through the audience, some nodding, others whispering in shock. This was no longer a one-sided attack. Blake was taking control of the narrative. You think you can come on my set and attack me? Jenna's voice was rising toward a shrill pitch. You think you can stand here and lie about my show, my ratings, my staff? I'm not lying, Blake replied calmly now, the composure somehow making his words hit harder. And here's the difference between us, Jenna. I'll put my name behind what I say. I'm looking you in the eye and telling you exactly what I think of you and your show. Blake walked up to her desk, leaning in just enough for the cameras to catch the intensity in his voice. You made a mistake today. You thought you could bully me like you've bullied others. You thought I needed you for publicity. But here's the truth. I don't need you, your show, or your tabloid tactics. He raised his hand slightly when Jenna tried to speak. I'm not finished. You've forgotten what real interviews look like. You've turned your set into a gladiator pit where you feed guests to the lions for entertainment. And here's the saddest part. You could have done something meaningful here. You could have talked about music, about creativity, about inspiration. But you chose gossip and cheap shots. Jenna finally found her voice again, though it came out sharp and panicked. Security. Get him off my set. Blake laughed. Not angrily, but with a calm that signaled he was already beyond caring. He unhooked his microphone pack and tossed it onto her desk with a thud. No need. I'm leaving. But I want every person here and everyone watching at home to remember what happened today. Remember how you treat guests who come in good faith. Remember how you twist conversations into hit pieces. He began walking toward the exit, but Jenna wasn't done. You can't just walk out on me. I'm not finished with you yet. Blake stopped at the edge of the stage and turned. His voice was firm, final. But I'm finished with you, Jenna. And after today, a lot of other people will be too. The audience erupted, some clapping in support, others gasping at the bluntness of his words. The cameras stayed locked on Jenna's stunned face as Blake exited, his boots echoing on the studio floor. For several seconds, Jenna just stood there, her expression frozen. The weight of what had just happened, and how badly it had gone for her, seemed to sink in. Around her, the studio was a swirl of whispered conversations, shocked glances, and scrambling crew members. Finally, the director called for a commercial break, but the damage was beyond repair. The moment had been captured in full, ready to be clipped, shared, and discussed across every platform imaginable. Jenna Bush had just lost control of her own show in the most public way possible. And Blake Shelton? He walked out of that studio with his head high, his reputation stronger than before, and a viral moment that proved he wouldn't be anyone's punching bag. This wasn't just another TV spat. This was the day Blake Shelton stood up to the machine, and won.